let's talk about something that came out of ABC Australia, first major mainstream media to talk about the Hannibal Directive and how Israeli forces killed many, we've said many, if not most, of the Israeli citizens on October 7th in the kibbutz. Kibbutzim.
Yeah, we can't see the masthead here, but this is ABC Australia, so not the American ABC network, but ABC is the government broadcasting network in Australia and is just like the BBC and the CBC in Canada, reliably a voice of the state and the establishment. So it's quite remarkable to see that ABC Australia, national state broadcaster, is reporting seriously on the Hannibal Directive. And this was quite a long report. And if you read it, there's almost nothing in it that you wouldn't know if you had been reading the Electronic Intifada these past 11 months. They go back to many of the same sources we do, many of the same stories and episodes we do, but they're giving it the imprimatur of so-called respectable mainstream media instead of, the Electronic Intifada who gets banned by YouTube for being correct all the time. So I just thought that was notable. And it reminded me of the story in the Times of London that we covered a few months ago, which was the first to cover the mass rapes hoax as a hoax rather than perpetuating it. So I just thought that was a significant moment. Whether it will open, sadly, I thought that the Times of London story might open the way for other mainstream media to start to debunk the mass rapes hoax. I think what happened instead is they just stopped covering it.
Yeah.
So rather than admit they were wrong and rather they would debunking it, I suspect that in the newsrooms, they saw all the coverage we and other independent media did, and they said, yeah, this is a hoax, let's just drop it. Because we saw the Israeli media pushing new sort of variations of the hoax over the last couple of months that did not get picked up in Western media as they normally would have done. So they haven't had the courage to debunk it, but they have at least not pushed it significantly further. But I don't know. I'm interested, Asa, you follow this story as closely as anyone. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, they are. We can't say for sure that they're copying our coverage, but yeah, they go back to a lot of the same sources. And the thing is, with this, it's all there. It's all been reported by us, by others. A lot of our sources come from Israelis, usually in Hebrew rather than in English, and it's all there. Like even Kamala Harris in that atrocious debate was saying 1,200 Israelis were killed by Hamas. Even the Israelis themselves admit that a small number of those were killed by the Israelis themselves. It has been reported in the mainstream media inside the Israeli entity, and it's all there. We think our working assumption, and we're making some efforts to try and quantify it more, is that it's quite possible that most of those were killed. Most of that, the dead on the 7th of October, were killed by Israel itself.
Yeah, and there's actually a new story indicating that. I mean, when you think you know everything, even more comes out. So we could show the story that appeared in the Times of Israel in the last day or two. And here you see the headline, report shows IDF silence on fears ahead of Nova. Failure to react. So that headline doesn't tell you much. But yeah. There was a report on Israel's Channel 12 about what happened at this so-called rave, which we've been told. And Kamala Harris, we just heard her repeating it. The story goes, there were hundreds of young people and they were just dancing, carefree, peace-loving young Israelis dancing, within sight of basically a concentration camp, the Gaza Strip, a couple of miles away, when they were horribly attacked and massacred and raped. And buried in this story, the Times of Israel is citing this long report, this sort of documentary from Channel 12, which we will be watching and analyzing more closely. I'm not sure if we'll do anything on it on the live stream, but we're going to take a close look at it and see what we need to report from it. But if we dig deeper into this story, again, which is sourced from Channel 12, this is the first time I'd seen this, talking about what happened at the Nova Festival. And
yeah, me too.
it says shortly thereafter, a tank arrived to assist in, well, before I talk about that, they say there was a battle. What we were told all this time, there was a massacre. Now, what they're saying here is there was a battle, that there was hours of shooting in two directions between Israeli forces and Palestinian fighters. So not just sort of a one-sided massacre, but a battle. And then they say a tank arrived to assist in fighting off the Hamas assault, and the team inside managed to kill dozens of terrorists until being hit by an anti-tank missile. Well, we were also told that all those Apache helicopters firing indiscriminately at cars heading towards Gaza were only killing terrorists, so-called terrorists, when in fact it turned out that they were shooting at cars carrying Israeli civilians as well as Palestinian fighters, and doing so indiscriminately. And, if you're at a music festival with a tank, you cannot fire a tank shell in such a setting that is going to distinguish between so-called terrorists and anyone else there. So this looks to me like an indication. And again, I say, I had not seen before, and I asked other people who've been following this story. And Asa, again, I want to know what you think. Had you seen any report about a tank firing at the Nova Festival before?
No, it was new to me. A tank specifically, helicopters, yes, but not a tank. And I think yes. I mean, it's as you say. There's no way that kind of fire could distinguish between Palestinian fighters and the Israeli participants in the rave. And it's the thing is, the Nova Festival is kind of the key to it, is the key to gauging just the percentage of the dead, the Israeli dead. And the actual figure is, they always say, at first they said 1,400 and then now they've reduced it to 1,200, but the actual figure is 1,151. But even that 1,151 is we know that a large number of them were killed by Israel, and it was deliberately done. We know it was deliberately done as a matter of policy to carry out
Hannibal,
because of the Hannibal directive. Yeah. And it's the idea that there was tanks on the ground. We knew that there was battles, and the thing that one of the largest single numbers was at the Nova Festival. So the Nova, it's said to have been around 300 people killed there. So it's really key to it, I think, the Nova Festival, the dead there. But also the same picture was repeated in a lot of ways all around all of the border kibbutzim, or border's the wrong word, but the frontier kibbutzim, let's say, which is the term I've been using in a lot of my reporting. It wasn't that there was this terrible massacre that was often claimed. There were battles, that yes, the Israelis were overwhelmed by the Palestinian fighters, but there were battles. There was even at the Nova Festival, there was guards, there was security guards, there were civilians who were able to get arms, especially in the kibbutzes.
And there were soldiers. And
there were soldiers,
as they tell
and there were Shin Bet agents as well.
Yeah, and then we can just flash up, just to remind people, that story from November, Tamara, when the Israeli police admitted that Apache helicopters had been used, or that at least one Apache helicopter fired on civilians at the Nova Festival. So we knew that, but the tank was new to me and new to us. So yeah. I just thought that was important. And Asa, I think we're gonna try and dig into this more.
Yeah.
So much. And just remember the hundreds and hundreds of cars that were burned beyond recognition, evidence of a crime that happened, that were all quickly buried in the sand by by the Israelis.
Yeah, and then of course at the even the Times of Israel story, which is based off this Channel 12 report that we again
Yeah.
I say with the caveat that we have yet to analyze it in detail, talks about this fierce battle, and then sort of casually says, oh, and then the Hamas fighters went around raping people. And
Right.
none of it makes sense, because you can't, it doesn't make any sense, doesn't add up. And of course, people will remember that the Sheryl Sandberg documentary, people who've been watching, who saw when we did the debunking of the Sheryl Sandberg documentary, The Mass Rapes, that guy Rami Davidian, who claimed to have found all these rape victims in the woods, and he was the only one there, but then he covered them all up so no one else would ever see. And then he fought off the 6 heavily armed Hamas fighters with a stick or whatever it was. So it's all this stuff that never adds up. But then you get these bits like the tank,
Yeah.
which tells you there's something here that we need to know more about.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
anyway, like I say, we'll try and dig into that more.